Welcome to the Life's Best Medicine podcast, where we are finding hope and healing one episode at a time. No appointment needed, no rubber gloves, and no coping. Just a healthy dose of life lessons to help equip you for this wild journey we call life. Hey everyone, I just wanted to give you an update on my trip to Guatemala. It was profound and it was fun and I had a great time. And I just wanted to give a thank you to Simply Snacking and Sue. Just everyone loved it there. You know, I brought some snacks with me and packed them easily in my suitcase, like you've been hearing me ramble about. But really, the joy that it brought people, they loved it, and I knew I was giving them some nutrition, and they were really enjoying it. So I made a lot of friends thanks to Simply Snacking in Guatemala, and just wanted to give a shout out to Sue for making this possible, for sponsoring the podcast, and for providing a product that I can believe in that can help people. As a matter of fact, as an update, one of my patients who works for a big tech company said that they gave him responsibility for the break room, and now he has Simply Snacking and some very healthy low carb options for employees because everyone noticed they were gaining weight and feeling terrible and not as productive. So this is what our message is. I think we have a shared vision. I think, bringing healthy food to people and healthy lifestyle and helping people to cope in times of difficulty. So again, Simply Snacking, thank you for sponsoring us here. Thank you for helping me to get these messages out. And there's so many great ones coming that I'm excited about. But we greatly appreciate your support and thank you for making a product that we can stand behind and really believe in, and I can pack lightly and take it with me wherever I go. So thank you very much. Have a great day. And thank you for listening to this episode. Hello and welcome to the Life's Best Medicine podcast. Today I want to talk about loving your neighbor. That's one of those things that's kind of hard to do sometimes. A lot of us don't even know our neighbors. We just run inside and try to, we don't have time. We just want to get inside and be with our family and kind of avoid interacting with neighbors. So we were the new kids in the neighborhood. We were the first ones to buy a house in years, and all the people there had all their kids grew up together and everyone knew each other. So one day I was leaving my house and I was going to the gym, and I look over 2 doors down and I see my older neighbors, and their whole driveway is full with rocks. Like they have a huge barrels of rocks, and they're out there with their shovels. It happened to be Labor Day weekend, and I thought, boy, they're really going to labor this weekend because they had so many rocks and their whole yard was empty. They had dug it all up, and so I thought, I'm going to go work out anyways. Maybe I'll just grab a shovel and help them for a little while. Then I thought, I'm going to get roped into helping them all day because they had a ton of rocks to do. I told my wife, hey, I'm not going to go to the gym. I'm going to go help my neighbors and just shovel rocks for a little while. That would be my workout for today. So I grabbed my shovel and walk over, and they were stunned. They said, what are you doing? I said, I want to help you. And they said, no, we already planned our whole weekend. We're planning on doing this all weekend. And, this is our therapy type thing. And I said, well, let me help you just for a little while. And so I get my shovel and start digging, their rocks and helping them throw them on there. I thought, 3 of us can do better than 2. And then the neighbor next door to them came out and said, hey, what are you guys doing? And, can I help? Well, sure, come on over. So he came over with his shovel. His kids come over with their little shovels. My wife came out and helped shovel. Neighbor from across the street came over and said, I have a bad back, so I can't really shovel, but I can go get you guys some drinks and some, an ice chest full of cold waters and sodas or whatever at the time. And so he brought stuff over. Another neighbor comes over with a shovel. We had it knocked out in like 2 hours. We just busted it. And the whole time we got to talk and get to know each other. And through that, the next weekend, that neighbor had a barbecue, invited everyone who helped over, and we all just got to spend time together. And we all developed a relationship as a result of that. So helping your neighbor, sometimes even if you don't want to, it's like not convenient. It's never convenient. But doing that and showing that effort, really speaks about your character and who you are. And it's especially relevant today because it's election day and we don't know who's going to win. But don't hate your neighbor because they have a different sign in their front yard than you have, or a different religion, or whatever it is. I think so many of us get caught up, and when people are different than us, we don't want to interact with them. If we're people of faith and they're not, we don't want to interact. But that makes it even more important because they will learn your integrity. They'll learn your ways, and they learn that you love them and care about them. They can overlook a lot of stuff, and so can you. So I think that's an important message, especially I know the election will be over by the time this comes out, and people have hurt feelings and on either side, whatever happens. Um, but I think it's important to realize, your neighbor probably has similar desires and wants that you do, even if they voted for someone different, right? So I'm thinking that that was a cool thing. And then about a month later, guess what? A huge storm comes. We have this huge tree in our front yard, blows over, and it didn't hit our house, but it was dang close. So what happened? All those same neighbors came running over to make sure I was at work, but they came over to make sure my wife and kids were okay. They took care of them, and then the next day was Saturday, so me out there with my chainsaw going, I got to cut this whole dang tree, thinking this is going to be brutal. It's going to take my whole weekend. So I'm out there with my chainsaw, 9 o'clock in the morning, and guess what? Those same neighbors who I helped with the rocks came over. The husband and wife both had chainsaws. They came, helped out. We knocked this thing out pretty quickly. My other neighbor across the street said, "Oh, I have this dumb chainsaw. I've never used it. Might as well use it today." So he came over and helped. And, we got that tree taken care of. And, I just was so appreciative because I knew how long it was going to take me. Just like they were appreciative when we helped them with the rocks. And so what we found is in our neighborhood, we actually still get together once a month. And have dinner together and talk and talk about what's happening. And it's really critically important, especially as a couple of the neighbors are getting older. The one neighbor who helped me, whose rocks we helped shovel, passed away. He was like a second father to me. He helped me build a bunch of stuff at the house, and he wanted to teach me his trade of carpentry and all that kind of stuff. And I was thinking, well, I don't need to learn it because you're always going to be there to teach me. And then he passed away. And now it's like, oh man, I wish I knew how to do some of these things. But he did teach me a lot of other things along the way. But, he came over, and then there's a lot of things around my house. When I look, I see him, even though he's not with us anymore. I see his legacy of building our doghouse for us and helping with our fence, and, just hours in the sun talking about life and what's important and what matters. And see, all those things reflect on us. So I think a lot of us are missing out when we don't know our neighbors. We don't know what's happening in their lives. We're afraid to go and ask for some eggs when we need it, and they're afraid to come ask us for eggs when they need it. So I think it's being a decent person. And I already told the story about having an embezzlement at my old office, and my neighbor said, "What do you need? I got you." Because he knew my integrity, he knew my character. He never had to give me money, but it just the offer was massive, right? Really important. And when they're done with stuff, they say, "Hey, we don't need this fridge anymore. Do you need an extra one?" Sure. Okay. So it goes both ways. And we actually have a fence between our in our backyard. Why? They have two dogs and we have two dogs, and the dogs play together. So when we're out of town, our dogs go stay at their house like nothing happened. When they're out of town, we watch their dogs. And so it's just been such a great relationship. And I think that's one thing in the US we've missed out on because we're so busy. We're in urban areas, we're occupied with life, and we don't have time just to sit and talk sometimes. And I know I've been, over the last 17 years when I was working a lot, it would just be on the weekends that I could spend time with people. But I think it's really important that we reassess where we're at as a country and as a people, and as a family. What do you do to love your neighbor? And I think some people might be difficult, but I think when your neighbor's playing their music really loud, go and talk to them. As a matter of fact, at my house, I had this some trees in the backyard, a little orchard. And I went over to my neighbor on the other side and I said, "Hey, would you mind if I cut that tree down?" Is it you? And he was like, "Are you kidding me? I've been waiting for years for someone to cut that fig tree down because it had termites anyways." But the figs would always fall on his side of the fence and stain his sidewalk. I mean, his area near his pool. And I'm like, "Why didn't you just tell me? I would have cut it down years ago. I didn't even think about it." And he said, "Well, I didn't want to be annoying. It's not a big deal. It's not that huge of a deal." And I was like, "Wow, I wish I would have known. I would have done something, right?" So I think there's a lot of stuff like that. And the other thing we did is, right between the dividing line of our houses, we put in a dry riverbed, but it was a lot of work. So what happened was they delivered the rocks, the big river rocks, but they were stuck with clay. So we go, "Oh, no problem. We'll just put them down," and we'll kind of, we were excited about getting it done. So we just put down some plastic, and then we realized, I'm looking at it thinking, doesn't look good. We got to dig it down a little bit deeper and do it differently. And so I was like 2 a.m. I went outside to go look at it, and guess who's out there? My neighbor's looking at it too. He said, "I don't think it's deep enough." He goes, "I didn't want to say anything." And I go, "I was thinking the same thing. We're gonna have to take those out and redo them." But then the crazy part was each of those rocks, we had to hand clean each one of those, thousands of rocks. because the clay would not come off. We tried power spraying it and all that stuff. The only thing that we found that worked was getting a wheelbarrow and putting them in there. So what do we do? My wife and his wife and him, we sat outside and talked about life and what's important. And so I learned a lot about my neighbor just because we had to clean clay off of rocks, dumb things that just brought us together that we had to do. And it was an annoyance, but we got to know each other a lot better. And so when they needed something, they felt comfortable to come to us. So I think it's one of those points. And then later on, when they moved away, their kids bought the house, and we helped them dig out their front yard. They helped me dig out my front yard, and it all kind of goes around. So I think sometimes just saying, okay, do I have an hour to go help the lady down the street who needs groceries or whatever it is, especially during COVID times, and there's a lot of hurting, lonely people. And every year we had a Halloween block party, and everyone would get together and hand out candies to the kids. And this is the first year we didn't do that because of COVID. We thought, we'll just hang out and social distance and do all that with our own families. So, I think it's that's changed a lot, and our sense of community has changed drastically. I think these are things we really have to reassess. So, loving your neighbor, it sounds like this Christianese type stuff, but really it's just being kind. When we moved in, people brought us, fruit from their tree, or they did kind gestures that were minimal, but it just said, hey, we care, we're thinking about you, we noticed you're here, type thing. And so over time we've just all become very close, and I think just being kind and decent really makes an impact. And I think if more of us were like that, we wouldn't be judging our neighbors or being jealous of their new car. It's like we should share in their joy when they have good things happen in life, right? And we don't have to keep up with them, right? I think it's just sometimes we get so caught up in the things that we miss out on the relationships. And so that was my message for today. I thought it was relevant just because of the election and how divided we are as a people. And I think sometimes going into someone else's neighborhood and helping out, or finding new friends, or doing stuff in the community, or helping the kid down the street with no dad, or whatever it is, I think those things really will make us a better people, and makes your life more enjoyable. It's fun to have neighbors that you care about, and you don't feel weird about, oh, I just want to run in the house and not deal with them. I've had that situation before in other neighborhoods where no one really knew each other at all. So, it's nice to say, hey, I noticed your car's broken now. Can I help you fix it? I've had people do that with me. Or they know a skill that I don't know, and they go, oh yeah, plumbing, I got that. Let me help you out, and let me show you what I know. And so, all those kind of things, we all have a skill set that we can bring to the table. So love your neighbor. Thanks for listening. And, sometimes loving your neighbor is life's best medicine, or having a neighbor who cares about you, or, you can call in time of need. And as a matter of fact, I'll tell you one other thing on the way out. One time I woke up and it was like 3 a.m, and I went to get a drink out of the sink in my bathroom, and no water came out. I'm like, that's weird. Wonder what happened. So I go in the other, like, there's no water in my house. Like, well, how in the heck did that happen? So I go out to the front yard, and I see that my whole, front yard was a big hole there, and you could tell a ton of water had gushed out of there. And so the next morning, my neighbor called and said, hey, I came home late, and I saw that your water was gushing. I didn't want to bug you, but I turned your water off. And I was like, man, that would have ran all night. It probably saved me, thousands of dollars probably. And, they knew a good plumber that could come out and fix it. And I'll tell another story along that. So we had to shut all our water off. And so we call in the plumber, and he's there working. I'm thinking, man, this guy's probably making way more money than I'm making, And so I started talking to him. I said, man, this is a tough thing, not having water. I had to borrow water from my neighbor this morning, and I'm boiling water to, like, basically, how long is this going to take? And he started laughing. I said, what's so funny? He said, where I come from in Mexico, us kids had to walk, like, it was like 7 miles to get water, and we bring it back. He said, we wouldn't use that for bathing because it was too expensive. I mean, too much effort was required to get that water. So that was for all the seniors and people to, cook with, and to clean their dishes and things like that. And he said, every time I hear someone say it's hard without water, I laugh, because that's true. It is an inconvenience, but this is a temporary inconvenience. And you have to think in the long term of, we did that every like twice a week. We'd have to walk all that way with pails, and they had like sticks on their back, and with 2 pails on each side carrying it back, 5 gallons each. Young kids, and he said it was just brutal doing that. So sometimes it's a matter of perspective also. But That's also loving your neighbor, right? Sharing water with them when they need it, or we had all the power went out, and we happened to have a generator, so we got to plug people's refrigerators into us and into our power supply. And it was funny because everyone, their biggest thing was ice cream. They're all freaked out about what are they gonna do with their ice cream. And I'm a low carb doctor, but I wasn't back then, so I saved their ice cream for them. This time I would tell them, hey, we will figure out a different dessert for you. So, anyways, love your neighbor, be kind, and have a great week. Be blessed, and be kind to yourself and others. Have a great week. And thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening to this episode. We greatly appreciate your support. We would greatly appreciate a positive thumbs up on all of the platforms like iTunes and Spotify, or wherever you're listening. And we just thank you for our Patreon supporters. We greatly appreciate your help in getting this message out. We think there's a lot of important information, and hopefully this helps you. Have a great day, and thank you for listening, and thank you for your support.